All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The Larry O'Brien Trophy that crowns an NBA champion is handed out each June, okay? And, last month, of course, it went to the Boston Celtics. But this July so far has seen the New York Knicks making their fair share of moves in order to enhance their chances of hoisting that coveted trophy next year. We've seen the Knicks make the trade with the Brooklyn Nets to get Mikal Bridges, re-signing OG Anunoby. I know this team lost Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency. I'll touch on that a little bit later. But today, we just saw all-star guard Jalen Brunson agree to a 4-year extension with the club for $156.5 million. Now, this right here is a big move and it deserves some attention. Why? Because with Brunson agreeing to this new deal, he left $113 million on the table. He could have been eligible for a max deal. And in doing so, he's actually giving the Knicks some much needed cap flexibility. All right. That additional apron on the salary cap is a game changer. I've been talking about this for months now. And I said, you know what? It's going to make teams think twice as far as who they give money to. And then also, you're going to have teams out there that are going to get creative. Why? Every time we come around to a new CBA and there's new inner workings on the deal between the league and the players, it comes down to, there's always teams that want to win that find a workaround. Okay. And this additional cap apron, is a way to punish those teams that are just saying, you know what, screw the luxury tax. But now Jalen Brunson has done something that we see sometimes in the NFL from quarterbacks, which is, you know what, I'm going to go out there and rework my deal, take less money in order to help my team go out there and sign more players. And you look at it now. For me, one big question was, well, how are the Knicks going to go out there and make this work after they gave OG the big contract? They went out there and made the deal for Mikal Bridges because I'm like, you're already paying Julius Randle, you're paying a guy like Josh Hart as well. And you know what? Credit to the Knicks and credit to Jalen Brunson for being selfless and going out there and trying to make this happen. Uh, this is something that you rarely see in today's NBA, as far as a guy being selfless and trying to go out there and win. Steve Peter, what's going on? Long time, my man. You're saying the Knicks are trying to out Boston, but why not emulate success? You know what? That last comment, I agree with you. It's one of those where um, the Celtics are the champs, okay? And the Knicks have been hard at work so far this summer saying, hey, you know what? Let's, in your words, let's out Celtics the Celtics. You got to go out there and try to beat the champs. So what have they been doing? They've been improving on the wings. Why? Because the Celtics have tremendous wing players. But this right here, this move for me with Jalen Brunson, it's selfless. You don't see it a lot today in the NBA because these guys are out there, and they're trying to get every single dollar that they can get. And I'm not knocking them for that, okay? Because whether it's the luxury tax in baseball, whether it's the salary cap in the NFL or the salary cap in the NBA, players have to ask themselves, star players that can get those big deals. Do I want to win or do I want to get paid? And it's one of those where, depending on which school you're coming from on it, one could be the right answer and the other could be the wrong answer. But at the end of the day, Jalen Brunson clearly wants to win. Why? Because this move gives the Knicks flexibility. It also gives the Knicks the opportunity to have more depth. And to your point, Steve Peter, about the Celtics, one thing that helped the Celtics win their championship last month was they were a very deep team. The New York Knicks are now a very deep team. You look at it right now, very stacked at the wings, with bringing in guys like Bridges. You know, OG Anunoby is a guy who, to me, is not a great player, but he does a lot of things very good. And then on top of that, the biggest thing for him, you look at the difference that as far as the Knicks in the win-loss column when OG Anunoby plays and when he does not play. That's a big deal right there. You're saying focus on the 3 and 4 positions and hope the center doesn't get exploited. I heart leaving might hurt. Hopefully, Mitch can be enough. Hang tight, my man, because I'm going to touch on that in a minute. But you look at this right now. In a very quick period of time, Brunson has become the leader and the face of the Knicks, okay? One of the most recognizable sports figures right now in New York City. And for me, it's like this. Yes, Jalen Brunson just left more than 100 million on the table contract wise with the Knicks. But we're talking about New York City. We're talking about the media capital of the world. Jalen Brunson, especially if the Knicks are winning and if they're relevant, I'll throw it out there. If the Knicks, win their first championship in more than 50 years, Jalen Brunson will make all of that money up in endorsements in New York City. Why? Because first and foremost, everybody loves a winner. And when you're a star player in the New York area, regardless of your sport, okay, those big companies out there, they're going to go out of their way to sign you to endorse products. So my thing is this: whatever he's leaving on the table contract wise, he can definitely make up for in endorsements in New York City. So one question for me: is this high risk, high reward for Jalen Brunson? I don't think so, because if your objective is winning, if you're Jalen Brunson, I don't think it is, because it's one of those, we've seen guys do this before. We've seen players, like a Tim Duncan take less money because he wanted to win. And of course, the proof is in the pudding, because Tim Duncan finished his illustrious NBA career with 5 NBA championships. It's one of those where if you're a player, you can't take a max deal and then want your team to go sign a whole bunch of other guys who want max deals or close to it. Why? Because that team doesn't have that flexibility. And yeah, you can go over that second apron if you want, but there's a stiff penalty that comes along with it. And, more often than not, those billionaire owners around the league, they don't want to pony up additional bread that they don't have to. You're saying Hart will also get good endorsement opportunities. I definitely think he will. And the Knicks will live or die by the Nova. That's what they are right now, the Villanova Knicks, as they have their core, which helped Villanova win a couple of national championships at the college basketball level. But like I said, Steve P, I'm going to touch on this right now. Losing Isaiah Hartenstein will hurt. And it's one of those where once they brought OG back for the money that they did, I didn't see Hartenstein coming back. The Knicks were going to pay him, but he got more money from the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think he's going to have the opportunity for success there. I think short term, not bringing back Hartenstein will hurt the Knicks. But it's one of those like this. You're going to start the season clearly with Mitchell Robinson at center. Mitchell Robinson has to stay healthy. That's never a guarantee. But you always know that there's going to be somebody out there prior to the trade deadline that's looking to part with somebody. Okay. And it's one of those where I think the Knicks can have that opportunity once again between now and next year's trade deadline to get themselves another big that's going to help with some depth at that position. Why? Because You always need size. You always need guys to protect that rim. Okay. So it's one of those for me that Hartenstein, the loss will hurt short term, but I think the Knicks will find a way to bounce back at some point. And at the end of the day, let's see how this team plays out for the first half of the season for next year. But you know what? Leon Rose has had a strong summer with the Knicks. It's one of those where, in the past, we've seen the New York Knicks front office, give up either on young players or give up draft picks unnecessarily. Leon Rose right now is treating draft picks like currency. Okay. Draft picks are only good when you know what you're doing with them, whether it's trading them away or trading or drafting a certain player. That's all it comes down to. Leon Rose saw an opportunity to give up some picks, several picks, to get Mikal Bridges, and it's working. And I think he'll find a way to wheel and deal and help the depth for the Knicks, And at the same time, he's found a way to finagle the cap. And at the end of the day, I'm not mad at him because, like I said, every time with the salary cap in the NBA, just like it is in the NFL, we've seen teams do it. The teams that want to win, they find a way to go out there and make it happen. I'm going to touch on that last part in a moment, but I'll tell you like this: have the Knicks closed the gap on the Boston Celtics so far? I think so. It's one of those where you look at the depth of the Celtics and the Knicks are, building their own depth as well. The Philadelphia 76ers have improved this offseason as well. But like I've said in the past, Philly's leaning on two guys that can't stay healthy, and Paul George and Joel Embiid. Milwaukee should once again be strong, and the East is going to once again be very formidable. But the Knicks are definitely in that mix. I'll tell you another move to me that has flown under the radar this summer for the New York Knicks, and that's them taking Tyler Kolek, the guard, out of Marquette. This young man can play. He was a solid player at Marquette for Shaka Smart. You're talking about a guy that has been an All-American, two-time Big East Player of the Year. Pardon me, Big East Player of the Year, two-time All Big East. But you know what? I think he's a guy, very versatile guard that I think Tom Thibodeau is going to fall in love with very quickly, and I think the Knicks fans are going to fall in love with quickly as well for his grit and his determination and his ability to play at both ends of the court. It's one of those for me, getting back to the center of this topic. You gotta tip your hat to Jalen Brunson. Okay, it's one of those where the kid just wants to win. That's all it comes down to. That's all he's accustomed to. He won at the collegiate level, and now he wants to do it at the pro level. A lot of guys, okay, won't do what Jalen Brunson just did, and I guarantee you, like I said before, the money that he's giving up on the court, he's going to make up for in New York off the court through endorsements. So it's one of those. It's selfless, and you know what? I think it's going to service the Knicks long term in a big way. But nonetheless, so far this summer in the NBA, the Knicks have been killing it. Okay, and I think it's kind of like, doing your planting in the spring to have a good harvest. It's the summer right now, and the Knicks are doing, planting their seeds in order to have a good harvest next spring. Let's just see if things come together for the blue and orange next season. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. Steve Peter, as always, it was a pleasure. I definitely appreciate you chiming in. I definitely appreciate you showing the love. And you know what? Keep checking out this channel. Tell your friends, anybody that you think likes sports, come on down and check it out and subscribe. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for tuning in to the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.